Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is an astrology report that's usually weekly, but we're going to look at the last whole half of the lunar cycle. So from full moon to new moon. So we're looking at the 28th of February up to the 13th of March, because there's some significant things that are going to shift. And this full moon really broke some people open. In a good way, but in a necessary way. Virgo energy, any health crises, any underlying subconscious issues that we weren't necessarily working with, but as soon as we started to dig just a little bit, we started to see that's like the Virgo archetype, being disciplined and conditioned, training ourselves to harness that passion and project it and channel it into something towards creatively productive, rather than just letting it combust and release and not really doing anything with it. So the full moon showed us in terms of that passion and how to channel it into wisdom. And there are things that we still really need to work with. And so sometimes that sixth house, Virgo in that sixth house, sometimes it's a health crisis or a healing crisis. Sometimes it is, things lurking in your subconscious that you didn't know were really there. If you're doing the work and you're committed to being disciplined, spiritually in some way, and just, doing the soul work and being real with yourself, and what you consume, right? Virgo is about our health routines and what our diets. It's about personal reconstruction. So the full moon, we saw very clearly what we still are working with, and especially when it comes to our emotions, and what kind of weight we have to let go of if we are going to quicken ourselves in service to this collective process, the sun in Pisces. And now that Venus is here, it's really making the experience of dissolving into the state of the collective unconscious, or becoming inspired, getting quiet, surrendering to natural law and source. We are expressing ourselves through that, although it's always difficult because you start to lose yourself here. At the end of the year, it's always like this. This is when the energy is really dissipating. Resources seem to be running out. We don't know. This is why people file their taxes, and the people who are getting refunds file their taxes now, because they get refunds now. It's that little bit that kind of pushes you through. It's not an easy time. So but there are big things that are about to happen, and this full moon showed us like where we need to let go of, what was the weight we need to let go of, what habits do we need to let go of, what types of activities that are bad for us do we need to let go of, that is holding us back from this quickening, because it's coming. And a big part of this is that Mars is going to be going into Gemini any day now, and Mercury is going to come out of shadow. It's also going to come into a trine with Jupiter in Aquarius at the same degree that is a man's motives being publicly unmasked. Mercury is past this point in Aquarius twice already. One was the day before the inauguration, and then went retrograde, and then so went back over this point in retrograde, okay, which was right in the middle of the impeachment trial. So now it's coming back direct and is going to come out of shadow, but now is in a trine to Jupiter. So we'll see this as we go through the charts, but that is an expansion of some serious good news when they are in a trine like that together, or in a conjunction. Sorry, they're conjuncting with each other. So right? It's all part of this week, and then leading up to Mercury comes out of shadow. We have a new moon in Pisces. We really have a chance to create something very new and to really understand our interdependence with each other and how crucial it is. But we're going through this process right now of learning something very, adding to our wisdom in a very deep and substantial way, because we will need it when we go into this next cycle, because it'll be very active and creation oriented. And right now we are still letting go of so much. This review of Mercury retrograde and then still in its shadow has been tremendously eye-opening. And with all the other Aquarius energy that's been involved, because Mercury's been in Aquarius, it has just been also very supportive, expansive, but and there's a lot of responsibility attached to it with Saturn involved and giving it a lot of form, the future we're headed. So let's look at the full moon first of all and just kind of get a sense of where we were at when this was happening. So not only did we have the full moon, sun and moon, Pisces and Virgo, we had Mercury at 14 degrees of Aquarius, just barely in that 14 degree area. That's really about bypassing what would be a natural evolutionary process, exercising of our will and mental skill. And so our minds had the ability at that moment to be supported in the process of cutting through our obstacles and our delays. And what was happening with that full moon showing us, what we could let go of in order to let us mentally do this, to bypass these obstacles and delays, go in a quantum leap in a mental and informational way, communication. So, but again, there was things that had to be let go of, or there's habits that need to change, right? Or just surrendering to what is being put in front of us, which for some people was very heartbreaking and devastating. Other people were just having tremendous amount of pain in their body over the weekend. Venus is also now in Pisces, and so this whole realm of of feeling and being sensitive to the world around us and the relationships and how they feel to us, the things that gratify our senses and the physical world that we interact with. In Pisces, there's a lot of potential for some really beautiful connections and to be very inspired artistically and creatively as well. The thing about Pisces is that there's no getting away from any of it. And so no matter what, there's always going to be something left over from, previous civilizations. There's an indestructibility to the universe, even at the quantum level, even at the level of just pure consciousness. It's indestructible. And so there's always some ripple effect. And Venus is helping us connect to something that's way deeper than just what we're experiencing right here. Because right here is painful, right here is confusing, right here is frustrating, and it's all part of this process to get us up to speed, because it's these experiences that are going to teach us how to deal with the level of adversity that is before us if we want to make massive change, if that makes sense. Mars has now moved past Algol, and is getting closer to the Pleiades cluster. This degree is like the chopping of the head off, the perceptions, the old perceptions, letting go of the old way of thinking, letting go of the old pathways, letting it go, and even getting to that point of letting go, showing that we can open our mind to the possibility of new beginnings always, always, always. And Mars, it's enterprising and it's going out. So there's a lot underpinning this full moon that was really eye-opening and painful in a lot of ways, and just carried a lot of weight to it. But there's also a ton of stuff behind it. Venus and Mars are potential to create out of duality, accept and project. Venus and Mars, about that there's always newness to create from, because there's always this consistent field of potential that is like petrified wood almost. Like there's still something there, no matter how much changes in this cycle of life and nature, right? And it gives you the courage to be able to let go of things and kind of surrender to something bigger than you, and however you want to characterize that. It's 222. All right, let me plug in my computer. Okay, we're still on the full moon here, so I'm gonna, try not to take forever here. So as we move through the weekend, so that's Saturday, we move into Sunday, and the moon is still in Virgo. And we have this grand Earth trine between the Virgo moon, Pluto in Capricorn, and Mars in Taurus. So this is where the refinement really comes into play, I think, as the moon, especially in our emotions, and our feelings, and how we experience things, is really what the moon represents. And so later in Virgo, as we get more of a master of ourselves, especially that emotional landscape, because we've been training and subjected to challenges that force this personal reconstruction, we are then in this trine, oh my gosh, with Pluto and Mars. Mars is really starting to consolidate so much and ready to break out. Like, they've already broken out of the seed, and Mars has been the push for the seedling. It's been like this push to come out of the soil and pop into consciousness. And this is what's going to happen when Mars comes into Gemini. But in this Earth trine, it really rooted this in that Pluto is going to be taking away all pathways that we have normally followed to get up the mountain. This is going to be such a deep transformative process in terms of how we get where we're going, how we make this ascension process, how we get to the mountain pilgrimage. And it's really going to be about refining ourselves and completely it is about refinement, and it's about discipline and being able to follow through and really discipline our energy, as this is certainly this whole energy of this trine with Pluto and then Mars is really rooted into the ground and brought into form. This was Sunday. And so again, the capacity to rise in consciousness and feelings above what? Biological limitation. Well, we're really going to have to we're going to have to dig deep. Oh man, we're going to have to dig really deep. And I felt that on Sunday of just like digging deep, allowing for this natural process to unfold, knowing that every pathway that Pluto is taking away is because we are being conditioned to find a new pathway. And it's going to come because we have disciplined our emotional landscape and have our feelings as an asset rather than our controller. That's what a moon in Virgo really teaches us. And that trine just like locked it into reality, which was hard. It didn't feel good. I know, it didn't feel good at all. We were getting bombarded with solar weather, and it was about this time the next day is when the moon moved into Libra. This is today. And then we get hit with this solar weather. There are a big jump in the Schumann resonance to counteract that. G2 magnetic storms, they're unusually strong. And so people are really feeling this process coming on. And then it found some sort of culmination last night. So I already talked about today on the daily medicine transmission. So just that the moon was in Libra, and that's really about applying what we've learned in terms of finding balance within us. Moon in Libra, it tends to be really focused on keeping everybody happy, but we can really turn that into ourselves and be like, what can I apply what I've learned about this full moon to find balance within myself? So Tuesday, the moon is going to square, Pluto. And this is, again, where we're going to really get tested in terms of, are we able to sail high in the sky above this, or are we going to, and in order to see the other avenues of getting up this mountain that, Pluto came in, and it's like a squall, right? If you know what a squall is, it just came through and just like completely destroyed all visibility, or just like there was an avalanche and took out all of our routes up the mountain. So our intuitive consciousness is going to have to sail above this, transcend it in order to see where we're going. So, but that'll cause some tension. It'll almost force it in some ways for us to be like, we got to rise above this. And then Mercury is going to trine the North Node as well. Let's see here. Mercury going to trine that North Node, Aquarius and Gemini, and the North Node in Gemini is getting to a position now. If you remember in June, right around it was the lunar eclipse on June 5th. It was at this degree of Gemini and Sagittarius. And what was it? A woman activist who is like passionately giving a speech. You know what was happening then? That was right after George Floyd. And there were major protests and riots happening, erupting all over the country. Right on that eclipse, that lunar eclipse on June 5th. Well, this was the degree it was happening. So now we find the North Node at this point. Exactly. And so it's interesting that this is we're really gonna be pulled into wanting to be very passionate and express a new felt experience, okay? And this is, we're gonna be pulled towards this because this is the direction of our collective soul's evolution. But it's important to keep that in mind. Now, Mercury at 16 degrees Aquarius is the big businessman at his desk, the managerial skills. And so our mind can really help manage this energy, and have it, again, there's a lot of imagery for me about channeling this energy appropriately, putting it into the right container and making sure we know exactly how we are projecting it and using it, right? Like we are the gamer, and using this energy and concentrating it, and learning from it as well, using it as a tool, as a weapon in some ways, although I don't really want to think about it. But Mercury is got this managerial aspect down and is able to harness the passion behind this, and manage it in a way that we can use it constructively and not be taken off course and have it used against us, which I think is really what happened in June with the lunar eclipse, that energy was harnessed and utilized in a way that pulled us, we were collectively following a trajectory that was psychically more easy because of the surrounding cultural context and the power of the media to influence what we think is the cultural context. So so that is tomorrow, right? So it's just one day after the other is going to be, especially this week. Let's see here. We move to the 4th, or the 3rd, sorry. We're going to do the 3rd. And this is the moon moves into Scorpio, is going to trine the sun. It's going to be opposite Uranus right there. Venus is going to sextile Uranus as well. So there's a sense of being summoned to something, and we are going to really be very sensitive to it. It's going to be in our relationships, in our material world. We're going to feel this summons to rebirth, and it is going to be very harmonious with where Uranus is, again, being able to project and anticipate what is naturally coming and being able to simultaneously be there and be here, because Uranus is Aquarius, right? It's outside of time. And so you'll be able to, connect to both areas at the same time. That's what that degree of Uranus is in Taurus. So Venus, though, again, it's going to be something very sensitive to materially. What is in our relationships? What is in our physical world that we interact with? I think it's going to be mostly in relationships because the moon will be in Scorpio and it'll be very, especially very watery. We're talking about Venus in Pisces, moon in Scorpio. It's going to be very watery, very watery. And then Mars will come into Gemini. And so, and this is going to be the breakout moment, right? So the moon will still be in Scorpio the next day on the 4th, and Mars is going to trine, it's going to trine Neptune. So there's some incredible amount of insight. And then it's going to come into Sag throughout the day and is going to immediately, let's see here. When it comes into Sag, this is the day that Mercury is going to be in a conjunction with Jupiter, right? The unmasking. So the 4th, we have the moon moving through Scorpio. Mercury and Jupiter coming together in this expansive degree about unmasking hidden motives, right? Jupiter is good luck and fortune and expansiveness, and Mercury is information and communication. I mean, there's going to be such an expansion. The moon's going to be in late Scorpio, and we're really going to be going very deep into some dark places emotionally, in an opposition to Mars, who's ready to break out into new ideas big time. There's been a lot of under the surface being patient. Mars is not patient, but Taurus is very patient. There's been a lot of patience, and now Mars is ready to go. He's ready to explore, ready to discover, ready to move forward. And that moon in Scorpio is going to be like, just coming into Sagittarius is going to be like, yes, I remember now. I remember that it was the new ideas that forged the new bonds that then led to this collective effort to do something. It's going to be, this is when things are going to really like shoot out. Up until this point, we're still kind of like building momentum and allowing ourselves to really get into the space. And once this happens, this moon opposite Mars and Mercury and Jupiter come together, this is going to be propel. It's going to just propel something open, propel it forward or blast it open, right? This is going to be a breaking loose type of time. And so let's look at the 5th here. We're going to just go through it, guys. The 5th is the 3rd quarter square. Okay, so then we have the sun squaring the moon, mutable square, Pisces and Sagittarius. So what is 3rd quarter square? So this is the crisis in consciousness. Do I find inspiration in the quiet flow? Or with the moon in Sag, am I going to go... Is my psyche going to follow that which is, and as the sun is also, this 3rd quarter square is also in a direct square to the nodes. The sun is in a direct square to the nodes, which means the moon's going to pass over. There's going to be a T-square, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a T-square with the nodes and the sun, if you can see right here. So... boy. So the sun is going to be the aspect that relieves the tension of like, where does my mind go? What am I supposed to think? What do I understand? Is my psyche going to follow the easiest psychological meal of transference of information? Or am I going to express something that's a whole deeply new felt experience? And it's the sun that is, if you can see here, is the point that pulls away and kind of dissipates some of the tension, which is in the quiet of your study, you find the flow of inspiration, the sun in Pisces. So it's really going to be in this moment where we have to just release into the quiet and the silence in order to be really inspired about how to move forward with our own selves. This is a very karmic moment, and it's also a moment of a crisis of consciousness. Wow, this is incredible. This is incredible. So, and it's very karmic about which direction are we going. And it's really about the quiet and the silence in order to get into the flow. Okay. And then we're moving on. This is the next week. This is the last quarter. So the the moon, as you can see right here, is crossing the galactic center. Things seem to slow down just a tiny bit in this week. First, the moon is going to be in Sag. It's going to move into Capricorn. There's not a lot of major transits that are happening throughout the weekend. And so it's almost like a, moon in Sag, moon in Capricorn, kind of getting serious, kind of focusing in, really paying attention to what needs to get done in terms of responsibilities, business type of stuff, just taking things seriously, and also manifestation in a very real way that, the moon is able to connect to the energy that does manifest, that's responsible for that. So the moon's gonna, on the 8th, conjunct with Pluto, and so we'll definitely get some measure here on, this is Monday, the 8th. Okay, so by the time we come back around to Monday next week, around this time, this is when things start to heat up again. So the moon's gonna meet with Pluto, and we're really gonna be wondering where the hell, then we're gonna really start knowing on some level that these pathways have been destroyed or are being destroyed, that we have to find alternative routes. And again, inspiration can really be, we can really find some in this moment, right? So let's look here. The 9th is the moon moves into Aquarius and is going to, it's going to trine Mars, because now Mars is in Gemini. And so instead of squaring it when it's in Aquarius, so there's going to be, we're just going to feel a lot more personal drive to explore and discover new things, and to really learn something. And it's going to still square Uranus, of course, and it's also going to conjunct Saturn. So, but this is where things start to heat up again by next week. So the Venus is going to square the nodes at the same place that the Sun did. So again, we're not going to have that T-square necessarily, because there is a T-square, but it's not with the moon. So it's probably won't be nearly as emotional, but we'll still be very sensitive to it, and it'll pop itself up again in our relationships in the material world. And maybe it'll be, things will be quiet on that front in order for something to come to the surface and to get an understanding of something and where we're going, right? Gemini and Sagittarius has to do with the mind and the working of the mind. When we get to the 10th, this is when the Sun is in conjunction with Neptune. Okay, the Sun's going to meet Neptune. Venus is not far behind, and this is going to be this is always an opportunity for us to get really pulled into the bullshit. Okay, this is going to require. This is what everything has been really coming up to this point for, because. Mostly because if we are not disciplined about our energy, our energetic hygiene is such a Virgo thing. Not to say other signs aren't hygienic, but they're hyper hygienic, and hygiene is a big part of the 6th house. Making sure everything is clean and purified. If we have not taken heed of what the full moon has shown us and gotten that stuff in order, by the time the Sun comes around to meet Neptune at this point, it will be very easy to pull us into the propaganda and to the false prophets and the illusionary false light. It'll be very easy, and we will have only the most tactile, basic ways of identifying. It'll all be about love. If it's not totally love and, an innocent, almost innocent kind of hope, and not hopium, but just really purified and simple and love, without, and completely unconditional. If it's of that, then wow, the inspiration that we will have access to will be substantial. But if we are not disciplined, if we have not allowed this full moon to show us what we need to work on, or if we're ignoring it in any way, when we get here, we are really opening ourselves up to all kinds of influences. And again, we won't have very much to go on other than very tactile, energetic feelings. And love should be the only thing that's getting through. But that means that we have to really calibrate our filter system. So this is the 10th, and then the 11th, the moon moves into Pisces, and the 12th, and we have the 13th, which is the next new moon. This is also when Mercury exits his shadow, and that's really when things are going to become a lot clearer, especially at the very end of Aquarius. This is metamorphosis in our thinking and our communication, and even in the way that we engage with thoughts, along with a new moon in Pisces. That's really going to stress how important our interdependence is once we have surrendered and let go of all of our preconceptions and really let ourselves be reconstructed by understanding our experiences, because this is where wisdom comes from. And this is really the whole point of this lunar cycle, is to come to a place where we can teach from deep wisdom by moving beyond our passions. And it's really the passions that trigger the events that we have to learn how to correctly and effectively channel into something, rather than being it's all about energetic hygiene with this full moon. And it came out in a lot of different ways, and some people more than others. And with that Draco starseed marking right on that moon, it brought up some of those aspects, those reptilian, very cunning and clever and motivated aspects, but also, because of the dragon, right? But also the tail of the dragon, it's not where we're headed. It's the momentum moving us forward, but it's not our destination. So that's also something to consider. The Draco constellation is associated with death. And I know for a fact that people had deaths in their families right after the full moon. So death of something, right? We have to let go of something. And in a lot of cases, it's the shell of the seed, and the sprout is already coming. So we might as well get ready for the breakthrough, guys. So that is the astrology report. I hope you found it helpful. If you like this content and you find it valuable, please hit the subscribe button. You hit the like button. You know the drill. It really helps independent content creators get their voices out there more, because that is really a struggle, especially on a platform like YouTube, which is really stifling a lot of their independent content creators. Mostly, I'm sure it's because they don't make any money off of them. So, unmonetized channels don't necessarily get a lot of push. So if you're interested in a reading, an astrology reading, a lunar transit reading is a great way to look at the month ahead, and is not a huge financial investment. And we can just look at what to expect in this lunar cycle, and I can tailor it to any part of the lunar cycle that makes sense. And if you want to follow Catalyst Energies on Telegram, Facebook, that's all in the description box. You know the drill. And thank you so much for being here. I'd say enjoy the rest of this lunar cycle, and I'll be here every day for the daily medicine, of course. But this is a breakout period for sure. And this full moon really showed us what we had to let go of in order to keep ascending higher. And we certainly are going to have some challenges, and that's how we grow. And that's what this is all about, really, is about our soul's evolution through this process. But this is a big deal. Be ready to temper some of that. We want to express that passion, passionate response to a newly felt experience. Oh, it's coming, guys, with Mars right behind it. Yeah, just you wait. It's going to be something. The Ides of March are going to be something, and we'll talk about that in the next report. I'm going to do much more of the next season type of report, and also because it is part of the new moon, so that'll be coming anyway soon. So you guys take care of yourselves. Seriously, take very good care of yourselves. Be mindful of what you're consuming, food, beverage, and content, and know that that impacts you just as much as everything else. Let me know if you need anything. I will see you on the Daily Medicine. Bye.